und herzlich willkommen zu einem weiteren Let's Play. Heute spielen wir The Stanley Parable und ich werde normalerweise Kommentare abgeben, denn das Spiel stellt uns einen eigenen Kommentator zur Seite, der die Geschichte erzählen und ganz gut darstellen wird. Mal schauen, wie es euch gefällt. Viel Spaß.
Wie so oft spielen wir das Ganze in Englisch und der Erzähler wird auch auf Englisch sprechen. Also schauen wir mal rein.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-ending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Na, das wollen wir mal sehen.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Did he? Können wir ja mal machen.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Sollen wir hochgehen? Ist ein bisschen schwer, das jetzt beantworten zu lassen, aber... Oh, das ist die Tafel von dem Meeting Room. Der Stundenplan. Vielleicht finden wir den heutigen Tag. Gab es da schon Hinweise dazu? Gehen wir mal weiter.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Ach so, ab und an. Das ist jetzt schon das zweite Mal, dass ich aus Versehen auf die Leertaste gekommen bin.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Dann pausiere ich das Spiel. Leider kann ich wohl nicht springen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, It's all I want.
Please.
I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
So, jetzt sind wir...
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Das war's. Oder auch nicht. Wir sind wieder am Anfang.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Aber wie sind wir jetzt wieder hierher gekommen?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Nehmen wir die linke oder die rechte? Schauen wir nochmal in die rechte rein.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Genau, das wollten wir, oder?
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nee, das ist mir zu dunkel.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Das Spiel ist übrigens eine Half-Life 2 Mod. Oder es gab es mal als Half-Life 2 Mod. Das ist jetzt die Standalone Version.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Wir haben ja wahrscheinlich keine Möglichkeit.
Now listen carefully, this is important.
La 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 la
Stanley
la la la
walked
la la
through
la
the
la
red
la
door.
la la la. Die blaue? Die rote? Gehen wir mal rein. Gehen wir rein und wir büchsen später wieder aus.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I want it to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Es ist ja leider dunkel hier.
What do we want? What are we looking for?
Oh.
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
Toll. Schöne Farben.
No, wait. Where are you going? Right. Where were we?
Aber leider ist es ein bisschen zu langweilig für Stanley und deswegen ging er durch den nächsten Raum.
Oh no! Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
Oh. Dann sterben wir besser nicht.
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Ach, hier kommen wir bestimmt wieder hin. Was passiert wohl, wenn wir jetzt wieder zurückgehen, wenn das möglich ist? Wir haben ja nur die zwei Möglichkeiten.
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
Ach, das kann ich dir nicht versprechen. Also gehen wir wieder raus.
No! What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here. You heard me before, didn't you? You will die! What about this isn't getting through to you?
Das ist natürlich schon ignorant, was wir hier machen. Aber wenn wir wiederbelebt werden können, wenn das Spiel neu anfängt, ist das ja wert für die Spielerfahrung. Ansonsten können wir das ja jetzt abbrechen. Diejenigen, die das nicht interessiert, die der Meinung sind, wir sollten lieber leben und nicht die Büchse der Pandora öffnen, dann diejenigen können ja hier abbrechen. Und ja, das Spielende sieht dann so aus wie eben. Gehen wir nochmal kurz hin. Was heißt kurz? Wir bleiben natürlich da. Das Let's Play ist ja zu Ende.
You are going to stay here, aren't you?
Ja, genau. Ja, ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen. Der Erzähler und Stanley sind beide glücklich. Und das nach einem so schwierigen, komplizierten und langen Durchmarsch. Ja, war toll mit euch. Bis bald.